Hello, I'm Jay, owner of Volunteer Audio in Oliver Springs, Tennessee. We've made a video showing you how to install an amplifier on your 2014 to 2023 Harley Davidson Electra Glide, Street Glide, or Ultra Limited. Now, we've already done several other videos showing you how to remove the fairing, how to remove the radio, how to remove the front speaker pods and install your speakers, and how to remove the gas tank. Now, you need to have already viewed all of those videos up to this point because we've already got it disassembled to that point. So let's talk about the tools that we're going to need. In this video, we're going to need a 13mm socket to remove the cover over the battery. We're also going to need a number 2 Phillips screwdriver or 10mm to disconnect the battery and install the power to your new amplifier. You'll also probably want a small pry tool, a panel removal tool, or a small screwdriver to remove the cover off of your backbone. You'll also need some zip ties and a zip tie cutter for wire management toward the end, and some isopropyl rubbing alcohol to clean the area where we're going to stick the amp in the fairing. Now, in this video, we're going to be doing the Hertz SP4.900 full plug-and-play amp setup that's available at volunteeraudio.com. Everything you see in these videos are available there, and the other videos that I've mentioned are also available in our install video section at volunteeraudio.com or on our YouTube channel, Volunteer Audio. So let's get going with this install. All right, so we're going to start at the backbone, and we're removing the cover over all the factory wiring. There's little plastic clips on the side. Sometimes there's some Tessa tape or even some zip ties that you'll also have to remove to get this cover to come off. Here we are cutting the tape. We're just doing this to get the correct location to run our power or backbone harness from the front to the battery area. So here we are taking isopropyl alcohol and cleaning the plate where we're going to stick the amp. All of our amps are going to come with a big piece of industrial Velcro just to stick right here. The amp would probably sit there by gravity, but we want to make sure it doesn't move around. All right, once stuck, this thing is really difficult to get off. So now we're going to take our power wire that comes in your plug-and-play amp. We're going to route it to the front. As you see, there's a little plastic cover there that we've kind of popped out so we can get it where the factory harnessing goes. We're going to snap that back in place. Now we want to leave enough lead up in the front to connect to the amp while we're also running the rest of it back to the battery. Now there's plenty of cable here. So you'll see there's quite a bit of excess toward the battery. You just want to leave enough that we can move the front back and forth. As you see, we're pulling some extra out here to make sure that when we turn, we don't disconnect our amplifier. So we're going to route our wiring up and through this hole in that plate below the amplifier, just to make it a little bit cleaner. And we're going to route most of the wiring up here near the gauge area. This is just going to make more room for the fairing to go back on. All right, so now we're putting our cover back on. Now, if you did rear speakers and you did a backbone speaker connector, you want to make sure you've already ran it at the time that you run this power and ground wire back. Once it's in, be careful and make sure that all the wiring that was in there is also still inside. None of it has made its way out the side and you're not pinching anything as you clip all this back together. Now we're going to use our 13mm socket. We're going to remove 2 bolts toward the back of this battery cover. So let's remove both of those. You'll see in this video, the customer's got some previous wiring here from additional lights. That's pretty common. If they're in your way, just kind of move them out of the way. Now we're disconnecting the connectors that went to the gas tank, as well as taking our ECM. We're going to unclip it, slide it out, and just kind of set it to the side. So anything plugged into this plate, we're going to unplug. And we're doing all this so we can slide this plastic toward the front and get access to our battery. See that little metal clip down in there? There's a plastic portion of this cover that lips under it. So we're going to slide it forward. Releasing it from the front of the battery so that we can take the cover off. Sometimes this additional wiring that's been added can get in your way and make it a little bit more difficult. All right, so now that we have that out of the way, we have access to our battery. We want to take the red cable, or the cable that has the fuse holder, we're going to connect it to the positive side of the battery. Now when you tighten this wire up, make sure it's facing toward the front of the bike. That's going to give you clearance to put the cover back on later. Any wiring that was there from other installs, such as this lighting install that was on here, make sure you put those back on the battery as well. All right, so we're moving over to our negative cable. When you buy your power and ground wire in your plug-and-play kit from Volunteer Audio, it's already fully assembled. The fuse is already installed. All the wiring is done, so no need to crimp terminals, no need to do anything on your end, but route it and connect it as you see in this video. Again, just making sure that all our wiring is facing toward the front to give us a little bit more room to get our battery cover back on. All right, we're connected, so let's get that plastic tray back in there. Again, you're going to slide it to the front, making sure that the plastic clip on it goes and locks around that little metal tab in front of the battery. Now that's in, let's reinstall our 13mm bolts. So anything you took out from in front of the battery, we're now going to be putting it back in there, as well as making room for our wiring and our fuse holder to fit also. Go ahead and plug in anything you disconnected from the top of this plate. We'll put our ECM back in place. It just slides in and clips back down. And the black and gray plugs that go to our fuel sender, they're actually labeled black and gray as to where to plug those back into that tray. All right, normally there's room to put the fuse holder in front of the battery, but in this case, we left it on top. There's plenty of room under the seat. So now we're back at the amplifier. We're going to be routing some of the wiring that leaves the amp around the top, and we're going to be plugging this in. So we've already plugged in our SoundStream radio harness that came with it directly into the radio, and now we're going to plug our amp harness into that radio harness. And the other end of the amp harness is going to plug into the factory wiring that went to the original factory radio. Simple T-harness. This does all your speaker connections, all your signal, no wiring for you to do other than to connect it. Our blue wire coming off of our amp also has to be connected. In this case, it's going to the amp turn-on wire on the SoundStream radio. If you didn't use a SoundStream radio, it's going to plug into one of the factory accessory ports in the fairing. It has the same style connector. So we're going to take some zip ties and do some wire management, just kind of holding things up where they should be. We don't want to leave all this just loose in the fairing. It's going to be a little time consuming. Just take your time, make sure that you get it, the best that you can. We got a lot of wiring going on, but there is enough room in here, as you'll see, to do this the right way. We're going to put our signal wires and our power wire coming from the amplifier up around the speedometer, and we're going to zip tie it to factory wiring that's already up there at the fuel gauge and voltage gauge. We're also going to take our Maestro module in this case, and we're going to make sure that we zip tie it up. That is what's going to create the custom gauges and a lot of the cool features on the HDHU14SI from SoundStream. We want to make sure we mount it where it's not hanging down low so water doesn't just run into it. You'll see it's secured up. There's our USB getting plugged back into our radio along with our FM antenna. And here we are securing that module up. Last but not least, after we get all our zip ties in place, we're going to take a flush cut zip tie cutter and we're going to cut all of them. That way it doesn't actually reach out and scratch or cut somebody later. And as you see, it's a pretty clean install. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that it has encouraged you to take on a project like this. I hope it's answered some questions you may have had about what it takes to install an amplifier in your Harley. Make sure and watch our other videos. We're going to continue forward now, and we're going to show you how to reinstall the fairing. If you're only doing front speakers, that's as far as you need to go, but we've also done a video on how to install TruePack pod speakers, how to do cut kits and 6x9s in the rear, as well as how to install the speakers in liquid-cooled lowers. Definitely check out the rest of our step-by-step videos on our YouTube channel at Volunteer Audio or in our install video section at volunteeraudio.com. Reach out to our sales team if you want to purchase some of the equipment you've seen here. If you have questions you want us to go over with you and help you make sure that you make the right decision, reach out at 1-844-30-AUDIO. You can also see all of our plug-and-play packages and all of our audio for your Harley at volunteeraudio.com. Please like this video. Liking it will allow us to be higher in the search results on YouTube. It allows other people to see this same content, and it helps us greatly. Please subscribe to the channel. You'll see the latest in Harley audio along with all the videos you need to install it in your bike. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, God bless.